Anybody know what net worth is?
No.
How much you're worth, like pretty much as a person, how many assets you have, your income, all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Your income, it takes your income, it takes into account your income. But the main thing is really your investments and your savings. And if you had a home, it would be your equity all lumped together. You add in your cars, everything, and that helps you determine, once you extract any debt you have, that's your net worth. And so a home is one of those things that really typically helps increase our net worth. Next slide. All good answers. So equity equals the market value of your home minus what you owe on the home. So can anybody tell me what the name is for the thing that you owe on the home? What do we refer to that document? Well, that thing.
Your mortgage?
Yes, that is your mortgage. Absolutely correct. So when you're looking at your mortgage and you're looking at your home, let's say your home is worth 250,000. Well, you guys are in San Diego, so probably $600,000. And you took out a mortgage of $400,000. So your home is what? 600,000, but you took a mortgage out of 400,000, and your mortgage, well, I should say your mortgage balance is 400,000. So you took a mortgage out, but your mortgage balance is now 400,000, but your home is worth 600,000. How much would your equity be in that home? Home is worth 600. Your mortgage left on the home is 400,000. What's your equity? What's the amount you owe? You
200,000.
200,000.
Exactly, 200,000. That's your equity. Very good. Let's go to the next slide. You guys are sharp. So what are some of the factors that affect the market value?
Property value.
Property value.
The
Location.
Location, definitely.
The economy.
The economy, yes, very good. All good answers. What about one more I haven't heard from?
If people are buying houses.
That is, yes. But what about improvements? Improvements that you make affect it too, right? So if you have a house and you decide you're going to do some fancy landscaping, that could help you. Or you're going to upgrade your kitchen, that could help you. Increase the value of your home. Very good. Next slide. Okay, steps to buying a home. Are we all on the same page?
Yes.
All right, great. So the first step is we get ready, right? And how do you prepare and get ready? You have to decide if you're ready to buy a home. One of the things I tell people is that buying a home is wonderful. It's a good thing, but it's not a good thing if you aren't prepared to take care of the maintenance of the house. If you're not prepared and you can't afford to pay the taxes, some jurisdictions have really high taxes on homes. It can be hard to pay the taxes. You want to make sure that you are focusing on all of your expenses and not just the shine and the bling, right? So you have to have your gutters cleaned. You have to be able to pay for your roof if something happens. You have to be able to replace a boiler or a heating unit if something fails. So you just want to be mindful that it's not just about being able to afford the mortgage alone is really my point. To get ready, you want to figure out how much you can afford. There in the presentation this time, I included some of the documents that the FDIC has online, and you should look at them afterwards. I'm sure Juanita will be happy to provide everybody with the PowerPoint presentation at the end of the session. And
Yes.
you want to look at that because there are things that you can do on your own in your own free time to figure out how much you can afford. Now, affordability is different for everyone, okay? And so you have to figure out what works for you. But I would strongly encourage you to do two things. One is to try to make sure you have some way of, after you get into that house, quickly building up at least about $500 to $1,000 so you can have money on hand if you have to fix something. And then the second thing is make sure that you get an inspection. Whenever you buy a home, you want to always make sure you have a good inspector to inspect the home. Here we're talking about making sure you're ready to buy, figuring out how much you can afford. I'm going to just tell everybody my mantra is live beneath your means. That is to say, if the mortgage company says, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, you guys can afford a mortgage at $3,000 a month, I would say try to get that mortgage at around $2,500 or a little less. Because the mortgage company and the realtor, God bless them, I'm sure they're all wonderful people, but they're looking out for their own interest, which is they make money off of the sale of the home. And I want you to look out for your interest and have a little wiggle room. It's nice that you can afford a certain amount, but you want to have enough wiggle room that if something happens, and we all know we're going to have emergencies, that you can still afford to stay in the home. The most devastating thing that I've seen in this industry is when I get phone calls from people saying, Mrs. Himes, I just can't afford the house anymore and I'm in over my head. Can you help me get out of this foreclosure process? So just think about that. If you have enough wiggle room, you usually can then work something out with your lender and you'll have an opportunity to stay in the home. The other thing you want to do before you get a home is make sure that you check your credit history, because your credit history could eliminate you from becoming a homeowner. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
All right. And does everybody understand why?
Yes.
Remember that lender is using your credit history, which includes your Fair Isaac score. And that's your financial score that is prompting the lender with giving them information saying, hey, based on this person's score, 800 is usually like the highest. 850, I think, somewhere between 830, 850 is like the highest. They're looking at that to see if you would be a candidate that is going to actually pay your mortgage on time. Okay, so you got to check your credit history first and foremost before you do anything, because that can trip you up. The second thing is start trying to figure out the financing.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
How far do when they look at your credit, how far do they go back when they look at your credit?
Oh, so when they look at your credit, they can go back as far as they like. Okay. They may ask you any question about, well, what prompted you to be delinquent on this. They can ask you anything. But the thing that they're usually going to focus on is that FICO score, because there's an algorithm tied to it, and that FICO score really lets them know whether or not you are someone they can count on to pay that mortgage on a monthly basis on time. Because it's your credit history. If you've been paying stuff on time, it's gonna show up in that score. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, do know that after you have paid your last installment on an overdue debt, you have 7 years from that last installment that you paid where the lender can no longer, after 7 years from that last installment, you can get that negative information taken off of your report. But it doesn't mean it stops the lender from asking you any kind of questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about figuring out the finances. You want to learn about mortgages or other financing options. I tell people shop around, shop around, shop around. A good place to shop around, I use bankrate.com. And, you know, for those of us who are still in the dark ages like me, I use the newspaper because there's a list usually on Sundays of the bank rates and what banks offer them. You want to try to get pre-qualified or pre-approved. Does anyone know the difference between the two?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, getting pre-qualified means I'm the lender. I'm looking at your income. I'm looking at your debt, and I'm looking at your credit. Those will be the things that I'm typically going to focus on. And I also want to know what you have saved up. All right. I can pre-qualify you based on that information. I just give you a letter saying you're pre-qualified, but that doesn't mean that you're pre-approved. It just means that a lender looked at some information and gave you that letter. A pre-approval means I have taken the time to send your loan to underwriting. There's an underwriting team, and all that is a team that goes in depth into your request to see if how much money you can afford, and it's more in depthful. And that's the one that you want, the pre-approved. After you can get pre-qualified. That'll help you go out with a lender, a realtor, and you can start looking for a home. But you're going to need to be pre-approved. And if you can get pre-approved up front, that makes it easier for you to bid on the home that you want, because you are a perfect candidate if you've been pre-approved up front. They already know that you qualify. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. So let's go to step 3, shop for your home. Put together your team. You know, you may have a family member. You may have, you want to definitely have a realtor, a licensed realtor. You should have an idea of the licensed realtor's broker. And that information would be on the website of the broker. You want to put your team together. So you want a licensed realtor. You want to know who he or she works for as a broker. You also probably should have somebody you trust near you when you're shopping and you know, negotiating things, because you're excited and the other person is there to maybe help you come down a little bit and think things through. So try to find someone whose opinion you value. Putting together your team also includes finding a good inspector if you can. I found that having a good inspector made the difference whenever I was buying a home, because they could give me not just the information about what they saw, but what they expect could come in the future, and whether or not I wanted to buy the home and deal with that particular issue. I'll just give you an example. The first townhouse I bought, I had a wonderful, wonderful inspector, and he said, beautiful home, love it. Everything is fine. You're good to go. There's only one question I have for you. And I said, what's that? He said, I'm looking at your age, and I want to know if you have to replace your roof within 2 to 3 years, can you afford it? And I said, no. And he said, well, you may want to reconsider this home because of the way they had structured the roof. And over years, there were people that had problems with this particular style of roof, and they deteriorated. And so I chose not to buy the house because he gave me that extra information that really didn't have anything to do with the inspection. The house was great. So put together your team, find a home that fits your needs that you can afford. I always tell people, if you're going out to look for a home, think about how long it's going to take you to get back and forth to work. A lot of people don't factor things like that in. That could be a lot of money coming out of your pocket. So you want to get a team together and you want to think things through. Step 4, make an offer. Make an offer. I tell people, make an offer. Don't get upset if the seller says someone has already made an offer. You ask your realtor, is it possible for me to make a backup offer? A lot of times deals don't go through as planned. And so don't get upset. Maybe something will fall apart and you have a backup offer in place that can then work if the person who originally made the offer just couldn't get a loan. Negotiate, negotiate, negotiate everything. Ask first. One of the things that I have done is, if you have that excellent credit and you've been pre-approved, negotiate. So you can negotiate things with people when you want to move in. If you're working with a lender and you have really, really great credit, you can reach out to 2 or 3 others to see if someone can beat their rate. Negotiate, negotiate. You can even negotiate with the realtor. Maybe down a point if you need that extra money. They might be willing to do that just to get you into the house quickly. Consider getting a home inspection. I don't say consider, I say get a home inspection. Get a home inspection. Take the time to get one. And then you will close on your house after you've gotten a home inspection and you figured out the house that you want. The key, before we go to the next slide, is to maintain your home. Your equity that we started talking about earlier won't do you much good if the house has devalued because you didn't have the funds to keep it in good shape. All right. So before we go into the scenario, does anybody have a question about anything that we've just talked about? Anything at all?
I got a question.
Okay.
My name is Sajata. I was wondering about what's the difference with those fixer uppers or those foreclosed houses. Is that any different from if you wanted to buy a house and you wanted to go that route?
So that's a very good question. And so the route itself would not change. What changes is you have to have money to be able to fix the repairs on the house. And I need unless you, let's say you had, I have a cousin. He is just one of these people that can do anything. He can, you know, do interior repairs, exterior repairs. He's a good painter. He's just a jack of all trades. He can do some plumbing stuff. Somebody like that, yes, I would say consider a home that requires some work from a foreclosure or something. But other than that, most first time home buyers, I would say no.
Okay.
It can be a bit much. And the thing that concerns me today is, you know, we have all these fancy fixer upper shows. And they
Right.
make it look easy, and they make it look like you can make so much money, $100,000 or $50,000 in a New York minute. And it's not really so, because what happens is when you get those homes, you know what you see, right? But it's not until you get in the home and you get under the hood of the car, so to speak, that you begin to see there may be other issues. And so they're really more for investors, because they have the money. If something pops up, they can actually take care of it. Most of us that are first time home buyers, we're not going to have that kind of money. We're going to be scraping to put together a lot of times our down payment. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Good.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Sure.
My name's Ethiopia. My question is, what about for a first-time home buyer that wants to get like a multifamily unit?
You know, that is the same sort of thing that I mentioned to the previous person posing the question. You can do that, but I would say if you don't have a decent amount saved up in your emergency fund, whereas if something happens to that other unit, you can, you can get it taken care of. You can call a plumber, you can call a heating company and pay $3,000 for the heating unit, new heating unit. Then you might be a candidate for that. But you just have to, I'm assuming your issue is you want to rent one unit out while you live in the other, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And so that means you are a homeowner and the landlord. And it can work out, but I really don't believe it can work out for someone who isn't financially stable in terms of having a pretty hefty savings account. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Thank
Does
you.
that make sense? Because you don't know what you're going to encounter. You don't know. A lot of people will do that, and they may expect that that person who's renting out the property, the other half of the property, that they're going to pay them every month. Well, what happens when that person doesn't pay you?
Right.
You know, so that's what's saying. You got it. It sounds good, but I wouldn't encourage it for a first-time home buyer.
What if
question.
that? Oh,
Sure.
go ahead.
No, sure. Go ahead. What's the question?
Related to that question, I was wondering if you have your own home, right, that you bought, and then you have the second home that you rent. Income wise, is it considered the rent that you get from the extra property? Is that considered income? So when you do your taxes?
Yes, absolutely it is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And there are certain specific deductions that you can leverage as someone who has a home that you're renting out. But here again, the key is, there are two things I think for people that want to get into those types of situations. This is just, again, my humble opinion. You guys are grown, you can make your own decisions. But I would say if you don't have 6 months to a year worth of savings, and if you haven't maxed out your retirement fund, I would say, or you're not able to do that, I would say I would not go into a situation like that. Because
when you say max out your retirement fund, what does that mean?
So what I'm saying is, if you work for let's say the San Diego Department of Housing or Housing Authority, and you have a retirement option there at that housing authority for you, you can probably put in, I think the max right now is somewhere around, somebody have to check me, but maybe around $10,000 or $12,000. And then and if you're over a certain age, you can add through like $3,000 more to it every
I believe
year.
it's maxing out at 20,000 a year right now.
Okay, all right. You can tell I don't pay attention to it.
Just a side note, a good book that kind of breaks down information on that. I just read it. The name of the book is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And it's kind of like Finances 101. It's a really, really good book.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. I hope that everybody get that down. And if not, maybe we could put that in the email.
What's the author?
My phone. I highly recommend the book. It's really, really good. So it's a quick read, but it's by one second. I'm looking it up right now. Ramit Sethi. I'll put it up in the chat right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So you want to max out that because your retirement, if you're maxing out your retirement, you're lowering your outlay of taxes, right? Your income taxes. I just think that those are more important. That's a foundation for you. Having that emergency savings first, because we always know there's going to be an emergency. You're going to blow a tire, you're going to have to replace something in the home. That's just life. And then the second thing is you got to plan for your retirement. So if you have those two things, then I would say, yeah, you might have the income that you need in the event you want to get a second home to rent out, or a double unit like the earlier caller talked about. So just don't, I caution you to not get in over your head. And you will remember this before we move on, the housing crisis of 2007, right? 2006 and 7. There were a lot of people that had purchased homes like that, and then they had another home, and it was just too much. It was just too much for them. So you never know. Look at us today. We're in COVID. Who knew? There are a lot of people not working. So you don't want to have that much on you. There's too many things that can happen. Okay?
Can I ask one more thing about the max retirement thing? What you're saying is, like, if I work for the San Diego Unified School District and I have a CalPERS and they take money out a month to go to my retirement, I should see what my max amount that I could take out so I can go to that?
Yes, you want to know. Okay. You want to know you do the calculation. You want to know the total max that I can put into retirement, and then you want to divide that amount up by the 26 pay periods you have, or however many, the 24 pay periods you have, so that every month you're taking out you're putting in the max that you can put in.
It would be
what you're doing is you're investing your retirement money that way.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And I don't know how old you guys are, but it may seem like it's a long way off. And why is she talking to me about retirement? But if you start today, the young lady who was talking to me, I don't know if you work for the agency you were talking about, but if that was a person and they started today doing that, I guarantee you within 15 to 20 years, you will have plenty to prepare you by the time you retire. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
There was one question on,
sure.
And the question they asked was something on rent to own.
Okay.
And what that was or how that worked.
Rent to own. So there are opportunities sometimes, let's say, okay, so I'll use myself as an example. I can say to you, I have a home that I am going to allow you to lease, and or maybe even I'm going to be a seller financier. I'm going to finance it for you, and you pay me. So it's like lease or rent. Okay, it's like a lease payment or rent, and you pay me, and then over a certain period of time, I'm going to apply monies that you paid me towards your down payment. I am skeptical. I'm one of these people, when it comes to money, I typically err on the side that the person isn't going to do what they said they were going to do, only because it's money. And money always changes things. So I'm uncomfortable with that. But yes, you can certainly do something like that in the hopes, until you're able to get a home. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. But does anybody else have any experience with that? And what are your thoughts?
Well, thank you, because I preach that a lot as well. The same thing you said is what I say. It's not something I'm comfortable with. I think it's something that I'm very skeptical about it. If you can afford, if you can get your credit up and you can get your debt down and get your income high enough where you qualify to purchase a home, then why rely on somebody else to do it for you?
Yes, that's very good. And Granny always said, God bless the child that has his own, meaning you don't have to be reliant on someone else. You're taking care of yourself. And I agree with Juanita. So just think about that. Think about that. So let's, and I'm going to say, even think about it a lot of times, even if it's a family member. I've known a couple of family members to get in those types of deals, and it never worked out for the person that was supposed to have it. So just think about it. So let's talk about the scenario. This is about Hayden. And he's decided it's time to buy a place for his family. He's a single dad with two young children. He wants them to grow up in a house with a yard. He has a good job as a manager of a middle scale restaurant. He makes $45,000 a year, and most years he gets a bonus of $3,500 to $6,000. He's been at his current job for 4 years. He has a credit history, but he is unsure whether he has good credit or credit that needs some work. He's pretty sure he's paid all his bills on time for the last 5 years. He's had an account at his local bank since he was 16, and he believes he will be able to afford the cost of home ownership because he enjoys doing maintenance and all. He has lived in the community that he wants to live in. He's lived there his whole life, and he has about $2,000 saved for a down payment, but he has no emergency savings. So, what do you think? Do you think Hayden is ready to buy or not?
He should wait a little bit, maybe have his significant other get a job and save up about a few $1,000s more.
Okay. Anybody else? That's a good answer. Anybody else? And it could be a different
Need
answer.
more down payment.
I beg your pardon?
Need more down payment.
He needs more down payment. Okay.
I think he should talk. I think he should talk to his advisory, like a home only the people that help you look for houses and stuff to get
the realtor.
The realtor, yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. He's not ready.
I agree. I don't think he's ready. I'm sorry, I'm late. The only reason I'm saying that is because I heard you earlier emphasize having savings. You need a cushion, because if you're investing all your money into this place, when you're buying, there's expenses that come up, and you still have your daily life expenses, car insurance.
I do. I didn't look at that part.
Right. So I would say he's not ready because he has no cushion.
Yeah.
I think he needs to look and see what his credit score is before he even starts moving that way.
It says
that's a good one
it's
too.
It's all of those.
It is all of them. And you know, he may or may not be ready, but the issue is he would be like me. He's taking a chance. And so the one thing I will say is I probably was closer to Hayden when I bought my first townhome, but I did have retirement funds available if there was an emergency and something happened. Now, I didn't want to have to touch them, but at least I did have a little something there, right? And I also had family. But you really want to try to make sure you have more than what Hayden would have. And so I have to agree with the class. For the most part, I heard a lot of people. And I have to agree that he should wait a little longer. Because if he's got $2,000, you know, he probably can get another 1,000 or 2,000 in a short period of time, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with everybody.
When you say retirement fund that you can rely on that, I thought you can't touch it until you are actually of age to retire.
Yeah, most of them have a little caveat where if you have an emergency, they will allow you to take so much out, and you pay for it. Trust me, you're gonna lose some money. But a lot of them these days have a little caveat that, like, if it's COVID-19, you can, if it's an emergency. But you have to be able to demonstrate that it's really a true emergency. And so someone losing a home would be, something like that. Does that make sense? My brother was in local government, and he had an emergency, and they let him take a little of it out.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not ideal. You don't want to do it, but at least you don't lose your house or whatever.
But what's a good savings amount?
So it depends on the home that you are trying to buy. If you're talking about saving to buy a home.
We're talking about San Diego.
Yeah, we're talking San Diego in general, and then like a good amount for.
I'm gonna defer to Juanita on that one.
Usually 3 months at least of your monthly income.
So that's for the savings. And what about the down payment? Just a general amount.
Down payment, you want to have minimum $10,000. I would suggest that you have a little bit more than that, only because you don't know what might come up. The $10,000 would be when you open up an escrow, they're asking for $5,000 right off the bat as a good faith deposit. Then they're going to ask you to do the inspection and the appraisal. And those two things are another $1,500. So that's $6,500 just when you start to open up escrow. That Miss Ivory will talk about in a bit. But then, moving costs, and you need to put a refrigerator in and all these other things that come up. But you do want to have at least 3 months of savings. So if your expenses for the month are $5,000 a month, then you want to have $15,000 saved.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds like a lot, but honestly, right now, how long has COVID lasted? And how many people do not have income right now for 3, 6, 8 months?
So Juanita, quick question on that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Can I speak? Okay, thank you. So what my question is this just for San Diego County, or is this anywhere in California, like LA County, the Bay Area, or is this just for San Diego?
It could be anywhere in California, because California has a very high cost of living.
Yes, very much so.
But anywhere you live, so let's say you lived in the Midwest and your monthly expenses were $2,000 a month.
To the Midwest.
Then you need to have at least $6,000, right? Say. It's a good rule of thumb.
I said I don't want to move to the Midwest. I'm trying to stay in California. I'm not.
Right, and we're just saying 3 months is a good amount of good. 3 months of monthly expenses is a good savings amount.
Oh, okay. For California, right?
Yes, Chauncey.
Okay,
Juanita, I have a question.
Sure.
So on the 1500 inspection, when does that come? Because sometimes you like a house and there's other people that also do the same thing. And for example, I pay for the inspection, and I ended up not somebody else outbidding me for that house. How does it, when does those funds are,
The inspection is usually done once you are approved for the house. If somebody actually says that they're gonna give you the house, they're gonna sell you the house. So once they accept your offer, which is what it's called,
that's when
your offer, then you need to look into the appraisal and the inspection. But we need to let Miss Ivory talk more about that, right, Miss Ivory?
So once the buyer and you agree on, that house, the pricing and everything is the time to do the inspections. Got it. Thank you.
Right. That was a very good question, and Ms. Juanita is spot on. You're not going to pay for that inspection until your realtor and the seller's realtor agree that they're going to accept your offer. Then that's when you go for inspection. That makes sense? So you're not going to pay for it until that deal has transpired.
I had a different experience. I actually had to, they asked me to pay for the inspection before I even signed any documents for the house, before I even got the house. So I had a different experience.
No, what I'm saying is, it's not that you bought the house. It's once the seller who's selling the house, who's offering everybody in the world to buy the house, once that seller has selected your offer to purchase and your realtor both agree, you say, yep, I still want the house, then the next step in line is for you to then have your contracted inspector come in, because you need to know what things work in the house and don't work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It should not happen before that. So if it's happened, do not do an appraisal or an inspection before you get an offer approved.
Right. That happens every day. I'm selling a house right now, and the young lady and the young man who wanted the house, I accepted their offer. I told my realtor. She called their realtor and she said, Ms. Himes has accepted your offer. And then the next step was for them to send some money over to show that they are, it's a good faith amount. It was like 500, or so it could be 500 or $1,000. And then the next thing they had to do was to get an inspector. And so they paid for that inspector. And you want to pay for the inspector yourself because you want it to be someone you choose that's looking into your interest. So keep that in mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and basically what it is escrow. Once an offer has been accepted, you're going to enter into escrow. And the deposit that Ms. Ivy just mentioned, that's an earnest money deposit that the buyer puts down to say, yes, I'm really serious about moving forward, we're purchasing this home. And after you do that, you have a certain time period. Last I knew it was 17 days to do the inspections and the appraisal and everything like that to make sure that the house, that you know what you're getting, basically. And then if, let's say on day 10, you find out there's something wrong with the foundation, so it's going to cost $20,000 to fix, you have the right to say, okay, I don't want to move forward, so I want my earnest money deposit back.
Yeah, the inspection is what dictates whether or not you decide, you know, you want to back out. Once you've gone through everything with that inspection, it's not likely you will be able to back out without losing money.
What's first? Is it usually the inspection and then the appraisal, or the other way around?
Both can happen at the same time.
It can happen at the same time, but a lot of times the inspection, you want to get that inspection done before the appraisal, because it may be something in the inspection that crops up that impacts the appraisal amount. That amount might go down, or, you know, is not likely to go up, but it definitely might go down depending on what has to be repaired and what you negotiate with the other, with the seller. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So the next slide should be, am I ready to buy? Yeah. Okay, and so for this slide, there isn't anything we need to do together as a family, but when you guys get back, you know, on your own, you should go through this and fill it out. I think I included it here because I wanted you to have it and see if it works for you. Okay, so you want to apply that on your own when you have a chance. And as I said earlier, Ms. Juanita will share the deck with you. So now we come to, how much can you afford? Only you can decide. Only you can decide, you know. What I will say is, if you are in a situation where you work for the county or the state, for the most part, we typically can say we're going to have that money coming in every, whatever the cadence is, 2 weeks or what have you. But I think that the private sector jobs are a little harder to gauge. And so you want to really, really be mindful, and don't be afraid to talk to different people about what it is you're trying to do, that you trust, right? That know you and know things about you before you make a big decision. I had a very close colleague who was older, and she was like an older sister to me. I talked to her. You want to talk to somebody that has some experience, if you can, that's really looking out for your best interest and isn't going to get anything from the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So there are 2 ways to estimate how much you can afford. Many of you know, if you've been working with Ms. Juanita, or if you've been to any of the workshops, I've given a spending and a savings plan is a must. We all, you know, hate trying to keep up with it, but it really does help us to determine how much we're spending each month and how much we have coming in each month. So you want to do that because you need it to help calculate as well your debt to income ratio. All right. So lenders are going to look at how much debt you have versus how much income you have, and they're going to come up with a calculation that gives them a percentage. So it's been a long time since I've purchased a home. So Bob, Miss Juanita, what percent in California would you say you would expect persons, first-time persons, or any persons mortgage to be a percentage of their total income? What percent do you use today?
What they're doing right now is, I think the HUD one is like 43% front end ratio. So that
Okay.
includes your your utilities, and that includes your
Okay, 43%. Okay,
so it's like
that's
38% for the mortgage itself.
okay. Okay. So is it, are you saying that the person should have no more than their income should be tied to 38% for the mortgage?
Right.
Got it. Okay. Because when you said 43, it shocked me, but that makes sense because I was thinking around 30.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But the front-end ratio includes, your cell phone, your utilities, and stuff of that nature. The front end. Back end is all of the debt.
Right. Okay. So it's 30 over 4. Okay. That's pretty good. Spending and savings plan method. This is another exercise that if you definitely are interested in buying a home, you want to do. You want to look at your total net monthly income. Notice we use net, that's intentional. It's not, you want to make sure it's everything that's coming out of your check and the actual amount that goes into your account. Minus your monthly non-housing expenses, and then the amount that you have left over for housing costs. And you can then increase your income if you need to. You can decrease your expenses if you need to, or you can try to eliminate expenses and or debt. Any questions? Okay. Next slide.
Yeah.
Monthly mortgage payments. So these are terms that you should know. Anyone that's going to buy a house, you have to know and understand these 4 terms. Principal, that's the amount that you borrow. Interest is what the lender charges you on your principal. So if you bought $100,000 house, then the lender would charge you, let's say, 2%. What's that interest? Nobody? No takers?
Can you repeat the question again?
The lender, you got a house and you borrowed $100,000 from the lender, and the interest is, your interest is 2%.
That would be 2,000.
2,000.
Right. All right, very good. Real estate taxes, you got to pay them. And then the insurance. This is your homeowner's insurance. And this is a must. If you get a home and you're not paying off the loan in full, the lender will require you to have a homeowner's insurance policy. Okay, because they need a way, if something happens to your home, if it burns down after you moved in, and God forbid, they need a way to get their money back. And so they will also, it's like you and the lender on the policy together because they have an interest in the home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And so you'll often hear in the mortgage space, PITI, and that's just principal, interest, tax, and insurance. Okay. Additional cost of homeownership, you have one-time costs. You know, they're showing you nice pictures here. We got some plumbing issues, and plumbers are expensive. Somebody had to go up on the roof. Roofers are expensive. So, you know, now this gentleman that's replacing, which looks like could be some kind of dryer vent or something like that, maybe not so much, but you want to fall within the guidelines that Mrs. Juanita and I have talked about, and even others, because you want to be able to afford the home. Otherwise, you won't be able to enjoy it.
Question on insurance.
Sure.
So typically when you get something from the bank or you know, realtor, they already pre-calculate the insurance in your mortgage. And
Yes.
how can you, let's say, you want to go with your, like automobile insurance company, not the one that they're, selling to you. How can you
Right.
separate that to say, hey, I want to go with my own farmers or estate, whatever automobile, because because I'm gonna get not only
You'll
that
get a discount.
discounts on all. How can you, as a first time home buyer, do you have that flexibility with, for example, if you have to use federal loan approval or um, things of that nature, or do they require you to just go with whatever they're offering?
As a mortgagor, you would be, if you're going to get a mortgage, you're referred to as a mortgagor. As a mortgagor, you are entitled to pick the company that you want. That's your uh, decision to make. Did that help?
Is that case on every, like, even federally subsidized programs,
Yes.
or like okay.
Yes. The only thing is, now let's say that you met a guy and he was a shyster. He was, he wasn't legit. And he says, "Oh, I have a homeowners company." He would have to be able to demonstrate that he's licensed, his company's licensed as a legitimate homeowner company in that state in which you're purchasing the home. And then you could use him per se. But you've got to use, the only requirement is that you use a state licensed company, insurance company. Did that help? Did I lose
Yes.
you? Okay, good.
I had another question.
Sure.
I'm reading the chat too, and I had somewhat of a similar question. Being a single parent and making okay money, but not enough to afford a house, and not wanting to have another person on the paperwork. Like, what is there any like programs out there or anything, a way around it, so I can afford my own home, but then I don't have to wait until I get married or get with a significant other? Like, I want my home for me and my kids. Like, do you know of any?
So I would say from my perspective only, but I don't know about all programs. So the first thing I would point you to is the agency that you're currently with. See if they have any particular home buying programs. I always encourage families, if a person has been in the military, to try to look at a VA home loan. And if not, if it's someone who hasn't looked in or been in the military, to look at an FHA home loan. The Fair Housing Administration FHA home loans are there for low to moderate income families. And so we have different requirements for families that are in those particular categories of income. And the down payment is lower. And we also have, unfortunately, I hope no one would get in a home and then lose their job, but we also have a little safety net for our program participants. If they happen to lose their job, or if there's a disaster, we have what's referred to as a loss mitigation program to help them get back on their feet through a lower payment each month until they're able to catch up. Or what we do is attach that lower that offset of the amount that they weren't able to pay on the back end of their loan when they get ready to sell, then we get our money back so that they can stay in the home. So I always encourage people to use those two federal programs. If you know anybody that's in a rural area, the Department of Agriculture has a program similar as well. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, but like if it's your, those are the only two programs out there for single parents. Cause I just feel like you're kind of forced to like have to have a co-signer or a significant other to be able to get a home. And it's just like you're there, but not there yet.
Yeah, they're not for single parents. They're for low to moderate income families. And a family could be one, but you have to go on to out to FHA, go online and see what the requirements are. But they are lower than just walking into a mortgage company, getting a mortgage that isn't secured by the United States government.
Okay, thank you.
So it shaves off some of the money, and again, with the support available, if someone gets into trouble, the design was to make it easier for people who ordinarily were not able to purchase a home to be able to. But you still have to meet certain income requirements. They're just not as tough as it is for others. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So what can I afford? This is another exercise on page 15 for you all when you get the guide, when you get the PowerPoint from Ms. Juanita, to actually go through on your own. You need to have your spending and savings plan done. And the table chart here is telling you how often you receive your income, because more often than not, you're going to be paying your mortgage once a month. And so you need to know how much money you have left over at the end of your month. Debt to income ratio, that's the total monthly debt payments divided by your gross income. That's good because with the gross income, your debt to income ratio is probably going to be a little higher. But I would say you might want to focus have a little lower debt to income ratio than what the mortgage lender might say you are able to have. So what lenders do is they look at your debt, and then they look at how much money you make, and they set a score. And Ms. Juanita told us that I think the ratio that is there for California, at least for, did you mention the FHA program, Ms. Juanita?
FHA goes a little higher, but still, I mean, they're looking at anywhere between 30 to 35, trying to keep it low.
All right. Okay. We go a little higher because we feel like our borrowers typically don't have a lot of income and savings. Okay. The debt to income ratio really just shows how much of your monthly gross income, this is before taxes or other deductions, before income taxes or other deductions, like say your healthcare expense. If you're like me, I got a deduction for that. You may have a deduction probably for Social Security. So it doesn't take those things in. It just looks at your gross monthly income, and it's trying to see how much of that gross monthly income you will have to go towards covering your monthly debt payments, which obviously would include that mortgage payment. So let me stop right here and see if there are any questions. If you guys feel like, I want to get your feel for given what you know right now, how do you think about buying a home? Do you think it's for you? Do you think it doesn't make sense? What do you think about it?
Me personally, it's in my goal, but I want to own something by myself. That's the goal.
Okay.
Like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. Like, I want something that says just my name on it.
Okay, you can do that. You can do that.
I mean,
just have to have it.
You know, I'm in a relationship. People get in and out of relationships all the time. So I'm just saying, you know, me being homeless at a point in time in my life, living from shelter to shelter, I want something in my name that I can secure as a home with my name on it. No roommates, nobody like coming in and out. Like, I want stuff in my name because that's hard to deal with.
So are you working now?
I'm in school right now.
Okay.
But I've been in that type of situation, and I just want to have a stable home in California. I'm from San Diego, but I'm willing to relocate somewhere, either apartment, condo, whatever it is, something in my name. Nobody else's, no cosigner, nothing like that. That's why I'm in school right now.
Okay, so then I would say set your sights on purchasing a home after you finish your schooling. Because once you have your schooling, then you're likely to get a good job and you will have steady income likely coming in. And then you can start thinking about purchasing a home and how you're going to save for one. Okay?
I should be saving 5,000 right now, and then have 10,000, like Miss Juanita said, in order for me to have something in my name. I mean, I can get anybody to be a co-signer, but I just want to own something. A home actually means something to me.
Johnson, in order for you to begin the process of home ownership, there has to be three things that happen. One, you have to have income to be able to get approved for a loan.
Right.
So that means you have to have a job and you have to be making, for California, right now, anywhere between $6,000 to $8,000 a month. Then you need to be having some savings, and then you need to have your credit score anywhere between 640 and above. So the goal for you would be to set those are the goals that you want to set for yourself. And the reason we're talking like this, there's a number of different programs that the Housing Commission has. There's a 20% down assistance program, which means that you would come into a conforming loan. 17% of the money would come from us, and it would become a silent second. At the end of the loan, like Ms. Ivory was saying earlier, you would come in with 3%. You can go in and get an FHA loan as well. That's a 3.5% down, but that's, you know, on a $300,000 home or a $400,000 home, you're talking about $10,000 at least. So there are other programs. When you come to the other homeownership workshop, Citibank will be providing. They have a home run program.
Yes, ma'am.
1% down. So on a $500,000 home, 1%, that's $5,000, no mortgage insurance, and you know, your credit score has to be a 640. There are a number of programs, Johnson, but the first step is getting that income secured.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can do it. You just have to slow down because you don't want to get into a product or home and it, you know, you end up not being able to take care of it and have it for a while. So just you're on the right track. So keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right track.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You should know that there are other expenses besides debt. You know, the higher your debt to income ratio, the less money you have to cover expenses beyond just your mortgage payment. You have, as some places have a homeowners association fee, right? You may be in a situation where, as I said, you have an emergency. You come home one day and there's water all over the floor. You have to call a plumber. They can be pretty expensive. So you want to make sure you're not getting into the house on just a little bit of money. You want to make sure you have some way of being able to cover an emergency, because we just don't know what's going to happen. One of the things we're currently dealing with as a nation beyond the pandemic is we have a pretty large uptick in major disasters. So you've got to have good insurance to cover you, but also those insurance companies don't always cover every single thing. You may have to try to find your own housing after so many days. And so you want to just think about these things. Nothing is perfect. We can't plan for perfection, but we can at least have a good idea of what things might crop up. And so we can be thinking through how much we're going to pay for that house. And we're not going to buy the first house as a first-time home buyer. We're not buying the fanciest house in the neighborhood so we can show family and friends. We're buying a nice home that has enough room for us to be our starting place. And then you can take the equity from that home, and your second home or your third home can be the actual home that you have always dreamed of. Okay? So just think about that. As we think about that, check out page 18. This slide is showing you how the calculation of the debt income ratio is done. So again, at your leisure, you want to look at these tables. And if you are working with Miss Juanita or one of the other staff at the San Diego Housing Authority, you should take some of these documents in with you when you're talking with them about purchasing a home when you get to that point, or as you begin to prepare for it. And it's no harm in preparing now, Jonesy. It's no harm in preparing now. So trying it, let's calculate a debt to income ratio. So we have our total debt amount is $2,045. Our monthly gross income is $3,750. And so our debt, which is the $2,045, we're going to divide by our income. So we know in effect how much of our money is going towards debt. And so what this is showing us is that 54.5% of our money is going towards debt. What does anybody think about this? Raise your hand if you think that 54.5% of your monthly gross income is good. Ms. Juanita, I'll count on you.
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay. How many of you think that 54.5% is a little too high?
I see one so far.
Only one? Wow.
Well, let's say two, because I'm gonna add myself into that.
It's way too high.
Yeah, 54% is over half your income. That's way too high. Whoever said that was spot on. That's way too high. You got to get that down. All right.
Chloe, I think I had it unmuted.
I can't hear. Somebody was talking, but I can't hear them. Okay. Let's look at your debt to income ratio sheet that you can use You can use this again at your leisure, and this is basically helping you figure out all the things you are really spending your money on. Your monthly housing payment, your homeowner or property homeowner association dues. This is all, once you get that house, they're trying to show you the things that you have to spend money on. So we know we have to spend money on the mortgage. We know we have to spend money on homeowners or property owners association fees or dues. And if we don't have to spend that money, have to actually write a check every month for it, we definitely still have to have money to take care of the yard and what have you. You don't want your local jurisdiction coming around, slapping a note on your house or fining you for not keeping your grass cut or your trees trimmed or things like that. Anticipated land rent, that's usually for people who may have a manufactured home, but they own the home, but they don't own the land on which the home sits. So that probably won't apply to most of you. Your monthly credit card payments, I'm gonna say if you have credit card debt, if you have student debt, and if you have a fancy car loan as debt, I would encourage you before you purchase a home to consider moving in back with your parents or a sibling and saving up to pay down your debt so that when you get ready to buy a home, you're not so strapped for cash. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
It is not ideal at the age of 24. Yes. Who's this?
Ridiculous. Not everybody's gonna take you. Sometimes you have to.
Sorry, we lost.
Yes, it's not ideal. That's right, at the age of 24. And everybody can't do it, Jonesy, but some people can. And so for those who can, they may want to do that. I did it at 25 and talked to my stepmother and my dad and said, I would like to move in for 1 year to save on rent. I was paying rent about $700 a month, but I couldn't save and work down debt. And so what they did is they let me stay with them for 1 year, and I gave them $250 a year versus $650. And so I was able to save that extra. But
sometimes like I'm not that old, but my parents is almost ready to come and live with me. So that wouldn't even be ideal for me either. Like they about ready to come home to me.
So
you can use their income.
I was getting ready to say that. So I have a church member who she and her husband worked. They were married, and his wife's mother and father became older, and they sold their home, and then they both put the money together and they moved in because they were getting older and they didn't use the space. And so they just got a little area for their parents, for her parents, and they moved in. And a lot of families are doing that today, where the parents are getting older and they're moving in with the children, and then the family has the money all together. But then once the parents, pass away, everything is with that child or the daughter and son that they moved in with. So you can be creative, but you have to know yourself, and you have to know who in the family you're working with. But I did do that for 1 year. It just about killed me. I'm not going to tell you any tales, but you know, because I had my boyfriends and my this and my that, and I was hanging out with my friend, and my dad he didn't like that. But, you know, it was just a year, and that year went by just like that. And so it was worth every penny for me to get my first home. So it's just an option.
So if somebody rents with you too, you can use that like as income too?
If someone rents with you,
like if somebody rents out a room, can you use
oh
that
yeah, oh yeah,
as income?
that's a good. I'm glad you raised that question. One of my dearest friends today, we started out in the government together, and when I got ready to buy my home, I asked her before I moved in with my parents. I asked her if she was interested. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was after I moved in with my parents. I asked her when I got the townhouse, since I was by myself, because she and I were really close, if she was interested in renting one of my rooms out, because I had 2 master bedrooms. So she would have her own bathroom and her own place, and she would also have a parking space. And she said, no, I don't want to do that. And to this day, she reminds me of the fact that she regretted not taking me up on my offer. What she did was she went out and she got a home of her own, but she struggled for years trying to maintain and keep that house. And she always reminds me that I remember when you asked me, I should have done it for that 1 year, and it would have made a big difference. So I didn't get anybody else to take over the room. I just stayed in the house by myself. But she was the only one that I was willing to let in, because I knew she would pay me she would pay me, and I could count on her. But she didn't want to do it. But yeah, you can do that. You can rent a room. And once you buy a home, you can rent it out to somebody. People do that.
I have a question. I was looking to buy a home, and the want is to have 3 kids, and it's a want, okay, to them to have their own rooms. I want it for their yard sake, pool sake, whatever, such like that. But I run my business from my home, and I don't want to feel like I'm at work all day long. So buying a home has seemed out of reach because I want the room space, and each additional room that I want is an extra, 100,000, things like that. So I want a suggestion on whether I should just bite bullet and go with like a 3 bedroom, for the low, or different areas. Do you guys have any recommendations for that?
So are your children, how many boys or girls do you have? How many girls do you have?
I have 13 boy, 7 boy, 4 girl. Right now I have 3 bedrooms, and I have the 13 by himself because age, and the 7 and 3 together because age.
But I was trying to figure the sex.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. 13 boy, 7 boy, 4 girl.
Okay, so 1 girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so that's the problem. You got the 13 and the 17-year-old having to stay together.
No. 13 is by himself, and the 7 and 3 are together because of their age. They're closer in age. I don't want the 7 boy and 13 boy in the same room. I don't feel like
right. I'm with you. That's what I was saying. So it's 4 kids.
No, there's 3. You said a 17-year-old. I don't have a 17-year-old.
No, 13. I heard you say a 13-year-old boy, a 7-year-old, a 13-year-old boy, and then I thought you said it was a 3-year-old boy and a 1-year-old girl.
No. 7 boy and a 4 girl.
Okay. So 13-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy, and a 4-year-old girl.
Yes.
Okay. And so the difficulty now I'm seeing is the 13-year-old might need his own room. And then the 7-year-old boy, I'm guessing you're figuring he's too young. You don't want the 13-year-old to have his own room.
No, that would be fine, but I'm talking about cost of houses. Every time you add a room and it's more costly is what I'm saying.
Well, that's
and then
what
it becomes out of budget.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. A 3-bedroom would allow you to have the 2 boys together and to have the little girl by herself and then you by yourself. That would be 3 bedrooms. Is that what you were looking for? You were looking for 4 bedrooms?
4.
Yeah, and that a 4-bedroom home is a big home, and it's usually most people's second home. So I think,
okay.
Yeah, and if he's 7 and he's 13, it's not going to be forever. It may just be for the first 3-4 years, and then you step up. But you just want to start somewhere.
Okay, thank you for your recommendations. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So I have a question.
Yes.
What do you recommend for first-time buyers, condo versus home?
Oh, that's a good one. So it depends on your lifestyle, right? So to me, it would depend on your age, and it would depend on, and the reason I say age is because if you're like in your 20s and you're still hanging out with your friends and you're like into travel, you don't have any kids, I would say a condo is probably great for you, especially in San Diego. But if you were...
I'm 37 and I have an 18-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter.
Are you looking for the 18-year-old son, he's going to be leaving sooner than later?
I don't think so. I was hoping so, but I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't think he's going to go off to college? Okay.
He's in college, but nearby at Mesa.
Okay. But sooner or later, 3-4 years. But
fingers crossed.
Yeah. And plus, and I guess it would be different there because the cost of living is so high. It really depends on you in that case. Because you have the kids, I might take the condo and then try to step up in a few years into a single family home.
Because you did say earlier something about getting your first home and then getting a second home at the same time and then a third home. So then eventually you do get the home that you stay with. Can you elaborate on that?
No, I wasn't saying that you get a first home and then a second home. I was just saying you start off with the first home, the one that is not your dream home, but it fits your needs at the time and your income. And then you allow yourself to stay in that home until you get ready and you're able to afford the next home, which likely is going to be a little bigger and maybe even in a little nicer neighborhood. But you give yourself time to save for that second home. And then maybe by the third home, you have your dream home. Because
you said something about escrow.
Oh, Miss Juanita was talking to you all about escrow. Or was that Miss Juanita?
Yeah, we were talking about setting up escrow. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Back earlier. But an example for those of you, for example, when I bought my first home here, it was during the crisis, the last crisis in 2008. And so I ended up getting a home like maybe for $240. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. At that point, I kept that house until maybe 5 years ago, because I never thought I could afford anything higher than $300,000. And this home that I'm in now, we got 4 years ago. We sold the old house for about $400. Took the money from that, put it into this house, and we bought this house, which is now about $600,000. At the time, it was we bought it for $500, and so we only owe like $150, almost $200,000 for the house. But our mortgage is like under most rents right now, which is about $1,500 a month, including taxes and insurance. But that's what she means about jumping you know, getting a house that's not really what you wanted, staying there for a bit, and then once the market goes up again, you get some equity into that home, you sell it and you get yourself something better, and you know, take that money and put it into another as a down payment for a better home.
Yes.
Okay,
And
That's
great.
what she's explaining to you guys to do.
And one of the things you should be looking at right now is the fact that it's likely we're going to have some sort of economic downturn,
yeah,
which means that it's probably going to have an impact on the housing market, right? We're already beginning to see an uptick in people who are severely behind in their mortgage loan. And by severe, we mean at least 3 months or more. And because some people didn't have jobs that allowed them to work during COVID. So I'm saying all that to say we're getting closer to Christmas. We are getting closer to the new year where before long we'll be filing taxes. We're probably going to be inside until April-ish. I would say save as much money as you can. You know, cook as much food as you can at home to stay safe, but leverage this time to save money. And in January or February, whenever you go and visit with your tax accountant or do your taxes, look at your refund. And if you get, you know, you're going to probably get a good amount of refund, hold on to that refund. Hold on to that refund. There's likely going to have to be another stimulus package where, you know, we got a little stimulus money. Hold on to that. You would be surprised at how reducing the amount of money you pay going out to eat and you're holding on to your refund checks and your stimulus, how you can save. Now, I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm not trying to be Miss Pollyanna, but there are some of you that can try either all or a mixture of those things to try to leverage the COVID-19 situation so that when we come out of it, you have some savings. Just consider it. Any questions or comments?
Do you recommend? Oh, go ahead.
My comment is to the young lady that was born before that has the 3 kids. I wanted to let her know because I'm looking for a house. I'm gathering information because I hope to buy within like the next 8 to 9 months. I've seen a lot of homes in California and specifically in San Diego that have a loft. So if you can't get the 4 bedrooms, you can get the 3 bedrooms with a loft and then convert it into another room. And then there's also some townhomes that are 3 levels. And then my friend in her kitchen, it was so big on the 2nd level that she actually converted that extra space into another room. So that's always an option too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Like
that makes me look high.
Yeah, I like that. Very good. I love the fact that you all share with each other. That's why we come together. So let's go on. We're just about done here. Remember the key takeaway, buying a home is a process. Take your time. If I could tell you 3 things, I would say, take your time, take your time, take your time. Start by making sure you're ready to buy and figure out what you can afford. You have those documents in your packet that Ms. Juanita's going to send you that will help. Let's get through financing a home purchase. And a lot of this is about understanding the terms. So the key takeaway for this section is knowing your loan. There are different types of loans. Learn about financing options for buying a home and shop around to get the best deal for you. Remember, I talked to you about your credit score and how that will help you shop around and rule out people that want to give you a mortgage at the rate they want you to. You may have some negotiating room if you have really good credit. So the types of loans. So we have manufactured housing or mobile home loans on rented land and or those that are not on a permanent foundation. You guys probably don't experience that much in San Diego. But then you have, and you actually have some manufactured homes and modular homes that are on people's personal land. But you have a unit or a cooperative. They're also referred to as, the loans are referred to as a co-op loan or co-op share loan. I don't know if you have these in San Diego, but we used to have a number of them here in the DC, Maryland area, particularly DC. Ms. Juanita, you guys have any in?
Yes, we do, but most of them are up like in San Francisco, San Diego, LA. The manufactured homes, we do have a number of them in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Mobile homes as well that are stuck, that are set up with a foundation. And so they are a few, but they're outside of the incorporated San Diego City area.
Got it.
Out in the county unincorporated. And those are less expensive for people.
Thank you. Thanks. I didn't know that. Thanks so much. And the last is the house, the condo, or the townhouse, and you just get a regular mortgage. So let's dive into these types of loans. So let's learn about mortgages. A loan to buy a home is all that mortgage is. It's referred to as a mortgage or mortgage loan. Principal is the amount that we borrow. Cost, we're going to pay interest on the principal, which is the amount that we got to borrow. We're going to pay points. So you pay points to the lender. Usually there may be 1 or 2 points. They are ways, again, for the lender to make money. Sometimes you pay, a lot of times you'll see you pay more points based on the better the interest rate is. So that's the lender sort of making a little more money off of you because you got a really good interest rate. So you have to pay more points up front. Fees, they have fees. When you go to get that application from the lender, it's a fee. I don't know what it is these days, but it probably is up to 150 to 200,000. Ms. Juanita, you have any idea?
The fees are usually about 2%.
For the application of the mortgage.
It's about 2% of the overall loan.
Okay.
So on the $500,000, so it'll be what, 8 to 10?
Okay, that's not too bad. And then the annual percentage rate, and that's the overall cost of the loan on a yearly, or we might say annual basis. Okay, any questions?
You said there was a fee for an application to get a mortgage?
Yes, there's a fee. You have to pay.
And it was $100,000?
No. Who said? She said, what did you say, Miss Juanita, in your area? You say you said
about that's the total cost of everything. That includes title fees, that includes closing costs, that includes everything is going to cost you to buy a home and close on it. Kind of like, think of it as taxes. Like when you go buy something, they're going to charge you taxes. So the fees on the purchase of a home is about 2% of what the home is going to cost you.
Did that make sense?
Did that help?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So now let's go to the down payment. That's the killer for most of us, the down payment. It's the portion of the home's price that you got to pay in cash. And Ms. Juanita and I talked a little bit about this earlier, but this example is one you should study on your own as well. We'll walk through it. It simply shows that the house was worth $160,000. That's what the seller sold the home for. And the person purchasing the home had to come up with $8,000 down. That meant that they only borrowed $152,000 when they got the loan from, let's say, Bank of America. That was a 5% down payment. So usually your most costly layout when you're going to buy a home is going to be your down payment. 5%, it used to be pretty good, but I guess today it's a 10 to 20%. But if you go with a program like FHA, as I mentioned earlier, or VA, 5% down is probably going to be just fine for you. But Miss Juanita, in San Diego, you guys, are you often paying as low as 5% down as a down payment?
Yes, they can pay up to 1% in some cases, with some depending on the
program.
Yeah, who the bank is that they're working with, and the program they're using.
That's good to hear. Okay, very good. So you know that, but the key here is to help you understand what you might likely have to come out of pocket with vis-a-vis the down payment. So keep that in mind. And that's why I was talking about earlier about something we can all try to save for when we're at home. The higher the down payment, obviously, the less money you have to borrow, which is why I mentioned earlier, and I constantly tell people this, don't buy, it's just like a car. Don't buy that item that you can afford. Live a little beneath your means so that you always have a little cushion. So that's what people who actually have money and are millionaires, typically most millionaires do. They don't spend as much on the big ticket items like a home and a car. So just think about that. That will help you reduce your debt, and it'll help you increase your savings so that you can invest money. Private mortgage insurance. You might say, why do I need this? The private mortgage insurance is not for the home. It's the lender requiring you to give them mortgage insurance in the event that you don't pay your mortgage on time and you end up in a situation where you're in foreclosure or something. So it may be required by the lender when your down payment is less than 20% of that purchase price of the home, because the lender will likely feel like you're higher risk. Okay. Does that make sense? I want to stop right here.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So good, very good. The good thing about it, I said, let's discuss the good and the bad about this. If you live in a home, let's say for 20, I think is it 10, 20 years? I think it's 20 years. You can get the private mortgage insurance wiped out because the lender already knows, well, not 20 years. If you pay 20% of the mortgage off, that's what it is. No, yeah. 20. If you pay 20% of the mortgage off, you can call the lender. Now, the lender's not going to call you and say, hey, Ms. Smith, you you paid off 20% of your mortgage. Therefore, we're taking out the private mortgage insurance because you've already showed us over time that you can pay your mortgage. You have to track it. So once you get down to looking at your mortgage and you've paid it every month on time, and 20% of the amount that you originally borrowed has been paid back to the lender, you can call them and have them cancel. You have to request it. You request them to cancel your mortgage insurance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, that's a little secret some people don't know about. Other mortgage characteristics. You have a loan amount. We already talked about that. You have a type of interest rate. There are rates that are variable and there are rates that are fixed. We're going to get more into that a little in a minute. You have a loan term. All that loan term means is if you bought a home, most people will get a 30-year mortgage. So if you buy a home and you get a 30-year mortgage, it's your term. 30 years is your term. That's your loan terms, just like a car term. And you should also know that upfront costs you must pay at closing. So there's certain upfront costs. We talked about the down payment and we talked about the fees and the points and appraisals and all that stuff gets paid, you know, when you're closing that loan. All right, 2 common ways to pay for taxes and insurance. So you heard us mention escrow. Escrow is merely an account. It's an account that the lender sets up whereby they set aside out of your mortgage payment your taxes and your insurance. I'm going to take you way back to the beginning where we talked about principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. The taxes and insurance, you do not have to have the lender take that out for you. You can take it out for yourself, but 90% or better of Americans typically, especially those getting a 30-year mortgage, typically have the lender take that out. They don't want to try to keep track of it. So the lender sets it aside. You also need to know that although the lender will set aside your taxes and insurance and pay those bills when they come due to your county government for your taxes and to your insurance company that insures your home, like an Allstate or a State Farm, you need to know that there are laws around how much money the lender can hold in escrow for you. The federal government has come up with a amount or percentage rather that the lender, once you reach that particular percentage, the lender has to give you the money back. They can't just hold it in perpetuity and make money off of it. So just keep that in mind. Lenders are usually really, really good about making sure they follow this rule because there are hefty penalties when lenders violate federal regulations. One way is to pay escrow for your taxes and insurance, but you can certainly pay it directly yourself. It's not very common because most people are not that disciplined. So I want you to keep that in mind. And the last thing we have is fixed rate mortgages and adjustable rate mortgages. I talked to you guys about that earlier, that you have rates for the mortgage that are fixed By fixed, it just means that's going to be the rate over the term of your loan. Can somebody tell me what the average term of a loan is for most people?
30 years.
30 years. And so you have a fixed rate for that 30-year mortgage. But then for the adjustable rate mortgages, those are referred to as ARMs. That means you might start off with a 2% mortgage, and then over 2 or 3 years or 5 years, your loan might go up to your mortgage being 3% or 4%. And so that means that the mortgage loan that you're paying is going to adjust. Now, one might say, why in the heck would anybody want to do that? Well, there are different reasons. Maybe you just started off in a new job and you're not making that much money, but you know, hey, I'm out here, I'm working, I'm going to be a doctor or a dentist, or I'm setting myself up to be a partner at the law firm. You might not have a problem getting that adjustable rate mortgage because you know your income is changing and it's going to improve, or at least you feel that way. But most of us want to stick to that fixed rate mortgage. The other things that lenders will do, they will offer you an adjustable rate mortgage known as an ARM. A lot of times when you really don't, they feel like you may not have enough money. You may need a lower rate as you start, and then it'll go up some as you end up paying your loan for maybe 3 years or 4 years. So I would say steer away from the adjustable rate mortgages. But if you want to use one, just make sure you get a wonderful realtor and lender and somebody that you know well to help you understand what you're getting yourself into. But ordinarily, first-time home buyers, I would not advise you to get an adjustable rate mortgage. So this is the end of the first part of the home buying session. And we have one more session. And Miss Juanita, you want to take it away?
Yes. Yes. We have gone over, guys. That's why we kind of rushed it over at this last time. The workshop was for an hour. We're into a 2-hour workshop. This just tells you how much information is needed when it comes to home buying. As I indicated in the chat, if you do need information on understanding your debt to income ratios and creating spending plans, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to meet with you. We can do a Zoom meeting, or we can do a phone call and just discuss where you are. And that would be really helpful. We are having Miss Ivory back on the 7th to complete another part of this workshop. And also we are having a lender on the 15th, I believe, that will talk about the 1% down payment assistance program that they have. And they're also bringing an appraiser that will discuss what is needed to do that kind, what that work entails, or what that is for you the whole, in the process. So please, we'll look forward to seeing you and all the others. And at this point, we will be closing out today. I have sent everyone a calendar with all the Zoom links. So the links are there if you need to, but I will also send out a reminder. Okay, folks?
And Ms. Juanita,
yes.
One question, I'm sorry. I think we're on at 2 next on the 7th.
Right.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I got the time correct.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to seeing you all. We'll wrap up on the 7th. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.